Welcome everybody, and welcome back to the Porch. And today I am honored. And you know what? I don't think I've ever said that to anybody yet, but it's true. I am honored to have Mayor Linnsie Clark with us. And unfortunately, I've taken up a lot of her time prior to getting to this point, but we're doing okay. And she met with the Premier today.
I did.
And she was at an announcement about Halo that I think is really good. I don't know much about it, but I think we're all pretty happy about it. Is that right?
Yeah, so Halo is our local air ambulance service. And so that's in addition to STARS and Hero, and Hero's in Fort Mac, and STAR is, I think, the majority of the rest of the province. And it's a really critical service that we're very blessed to have in our area. And they have saved hundreds, if not thousands of lives over the course of their history here. And it was just announced today that the Alberta government is giving them stable funding. I believe it's up to 50% of their operating budget. So that will reduce the amount of money that Halo has to raise through fundraising and municipal support. And it also allows them to plan a little bit better because they kind of know that they for sure have a certain amount of funding every year. In addition, I think Cypress County also committed to some stable funding last year or the year before.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So it's really exciting. So Paul Caroline is the, I want to say CEO. He's the head honcho at Halo. And he spoke, and he did a really good job. He recognized all of the board and all of the things that they sacrifice as volunteers to make Halo work, and the contributions from the community. And MLA Fry was there as well. And one really cool thing that I didn't know that was going to happen today was Prairie Rose School Division has a flight school.
Yes.
And so the students were there today. So I think it's grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. And so after the announcement, they took us with Reagan Weeks, took us to where their shop is at the airport, and they're building an airplane.
Oh, wow.
And so we got to see it's kind of still in a few pieces, but they hope to have it done by June. And then, so the grade 10s are sort of just starting, but I think they said by the time you get to grade 12, you're able to do solo flights.
Yes.
So I just think that's so exciting and incredible.
There was a man who passed away early, was a teacher there. My wife knows the family, Rose Deba.
Oh, yes.
And I think that it's in honor of him. There's something there with his name.
Okay, yeah.
And he either was a pilot or obviously, had big loved aviation or something. Wow, that's good. I didn't know about the airplane.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
That's not easy.
I'm sure it isn't. There was some talk of potentially I would get to go on the first flight.
Wow.
Of the airplane. So we'll see if that pans out, but that's really exciting.
Yeah, it will be.
I'm sure they'll test it first.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
It's just physics, right?
I don't know that. But give us a call prior to. And
okay.
Actually, if you want, Tyson will come out and do some footage of it. And and that would be great.
Yeah.
And I would like that. Yeah. Because that's big for them. That's big for that school and that program. And
it really is. And we have obviously a municipal airport here and a broader flight school. at the airport with the simulator, and so I believe that's starting to pick back up. COVID was,
tough,
hard. So that's really exciting too, that we have that in Medicine Hat.
Yes. So you've been the mayor now since November.
Yes. November 1st.
First term mayor.
Yes.
So busy time.
Very.
Very busy.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why I say that. I don't know how busy you've been, but it's got to be busy, and I know you've worked hard. And a lot of changes and a lot of good things. I watch council. I'm there like a hawk. I don't understand most of it. But and sometimes I read the package on the Friday before.
Wow.
And sometimes, like, that's a lot of pages.
It's a lot
I don't read all that. But I do, I find it interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And
more people should do that, actually, I think.
Yeah, that would be great. I think having participation in local government is really important. And we're actually hopefully going to be looking for more ways to have more community involvement. So not just like the town halls and which I had hoped to have something like that already, but it's been a little bit busier than I thought it would be at the front end. But moving forward, doing those community two-way communication things, but also my hope is that we're actually pushing some of the decision making and the idea creating down further into the community. Councillor Van Dyke, actually, when she was campaigning, talked a lot about neighborhood associations.
She did.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, and so she's done a lot of work on it already, and she's very passionate about it. And I love the idea. I think it's so great, and I'm really excited to see what we can do in terms of helping or facilitating the creation of more neighborhood associations, and then what's the relationship between those associations in the city and how we make that work best for the community.
So prior to the podcast today, I spoke to Mayor Clark because we do another podcast, and I had Councillor Van Dyke on the podcast when she was running, and we talked a lot about neighborhood associations, which I really like. And then, of course, I said to Mayor Clark that Northeast Crescent Heights would be the best neighborhood association, and she said it's not a competition, and chastised me for thinking that way. And now I don't think that way. So you cured me.
Okay.
So, but I mean, we will be strong.
You will be strong.
So you're in Tyson's place too. But I think it's great. I think that would be a wonderful thing. I had letters or emails from people that watched the podcast and just kind of followed up with me and said, have you heard anything new? And so my response was that I'll check, but that, she's a first term counselor, and I just think it's been super busy for you guys, and probably a lot more than everybody thought.
Yeah, and there was like the election generated a lot of interest.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of opportunities to go out and meet with people, and a lot of people have questions or concerns, or they just want to meet. And so that level of engagement is great. It just, it's like I'm booking into like May, June for those types of things. So it takes time. And of course we've had some changes in the organization as well that kind of not take away, but you have to direct your attention to some of that stuff too, and getting two new positions for council. So that hiring process is we've started that, and so more of those administration things that have required some attention.
Yeah. So I did speak to Councillor Van Dyke yesterday about the emails that I got, and I remember her saying, like, prior to the election, she had done a lot of work on this, and it won't be that long in a couple of months, that she'll be able to, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people that will help. I know Ina and I will help.
But only for the Northeast.
No, I've changed. The last hour, my life has changed since you came back to the porch, and we'll help everybody. It's good for everybody.
It's great for everybody. Yeah.
And we have lots of ideas. And I met with another group last week that I think could really. I just think it's there'll be a lot of people that will help out, and it'll be good. And Southeast Hill, I think, has an association now.
You are correct. Yeah.
And so we'll be able to learn from them.
Yeah.
And there's some good people on that one. Yeah.
Very, yes. Yeah.
So nothing but good, positive stuff out of that. So we had a podcast, Linnsie, before the election, and we talked about wellness. Mm-hmm. And my thing was that we've had a lot of discussion about homeless, and I think that discussion still goes on. And I know there's lots of agencies that are doing their best, and it's a tough one. Mm-hmm. But I also thought that we need to not forget about them for sure, but that we also need to kind of transition to being known as a city of wellness as well. And I don't know what that means. I know what wellness means.
Yeah.
Wellness means that to me that we just, we get well, we get active, we start to think the right way. We don't, and I can be a negative Nilly, and
what?
I admitted it, and I can be, but I'm not a negative Nilly on homelessness and those kind of people. I will help them when I can. I like to talk to them. I sat down with a guy the other day downtown, had a great chat with him. But I think that somehow, some way that we start to look at wellness, and I think that would be a good thing for us to start to do. How we do it, I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's quite a bit of work underway already. So I think when we're talking about wellness, there's like the positive aspects of it where we're all feeling good. You can describe it in like positive ways. I think right now there's a lot of work being done on how to remedy or alleviate some of the barriers or some of the things that are not wellness. So like you talked about, housing insecurity, mental health would be another area that we need to target, substance abuse. So there's opioid crisis, obviously, and then methamphetamine is pretty common in our city as well, or is one of the more common ones of substances that people abuse in our city. So those are all symptoms usually. So we have, in our community now, there are a lot of people suffering. Some people you wouldn't even know that are, like, you can't just tell by looking at someone.
No.
So, with people, even through COVID was really tough. So people are suffering with financial issues, some family issues. Then you layer on, trauma, pre-existing trauma, and it adds up. And so if you have all of those things and you're suffering with like multiple layers, it's a more complex and persistent issue. And there's, I think, a lot of room though for people who are just experiencing on the cusp. So maybe some financial issues, some family issues. They're, just kind of need someone to talk to, need some support, or maybe need help with a resume. There's a few groups in Medicine Hat that are working on that, and I think it's important for us to recognize the value that those services play as well. So obviously, like, when someone's homeless, you're absolutely right. Like, we need to address that for sure, but that prevention piece as well. So if we can intervene, and it's not the city that would do that, but, groups within our city, the Interman Project would be one that they work, they have like peer support, intergenerational trauma therapy, I think it's called.
Those guys have done a good job.
Yeah.
They just got some kind of
No, that was our collective journey. So
okay.
they got a grant as part of the Alberta government's opioid response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was good, I
Yes.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no quick fix. There's no one answer to the opioid response. I think what the Alberta government has done, they've done lots of things, but the announcement that day was an app that, if you're using a substance that there's a risk of overdose, you can start, like, when you take the drug, you kind of like start the app. And then after, I think, like 2 minutes, it'll start beeping at you really loud. And if you don't press like reset or extend or whatever, then emergency response will come onto the line and check to see if you're okay. If you're not okay, then they'll send out an ambulance. And then the other sort of the service that was announced was virtual opioid. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's basically you can get access to Suboxone, I believe it is, through just like a phone call, rather than having to go in somewhere and get a prescription from a doctor. I'm really sorry if that's not 100% an accurate description of.
But it's the drug
service,
that counteracts whatever
yes.
you take.
Well, I think it's both an opioid agonist and antagonist somehow. I think there's a element of the drug that does match up with the opioid receptors on the neurons, and so, but it blocks them. And then there's a naloxone element to it too. Okay. So it prevents you from getting high, but it is also an opioid agonist. So it prevents the withdrawal symptoms. That's my best guess at what it is, or an explanation of it.
I just hope it works.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It works, but like I said, there's no.
If you get there on time,
it may not work for everyone, because you have to take it. You have to choose to.
Oh, that's right.
Do that.
Yeah. Well, I think the city and the government. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't agree. I think they're doing what they can. I think it's difficult. It's just, a lot of these people don't want help. And a lot of these people maybe don't know how to ask. And a lot of them are just mentally just not where they need to be, right? They're just, like the guy that I sat with the other day, he was pretty down and out. And, was needed to get happy. That was what he told me. He said, I need to get happy. And, of course, wanted money. I never have any on me anyways, but.
So I do want to push back on your use of the words "these people," and I know that you'll agree with this once I say it.
Yes.
It's not a separate group of people. We're all at risk of, struggling with our mental health.
Oh, that's true.
If we have, financial issues at some point in our life. Like, I've been blessed to have such a large family and a huge social safety net. So, and so I have, a lot more cushion to fall back on if something ever happened. But without that, you never know when you're going to be, one car accident or one job loss away from being in a very different position than you are now. So. Oh no,
I dealt with it for 10 years. I worked in a jail. I I saw people go from life was good, then they got in their accident, got charged with impaired, lost their job. And I saw them frequently after that and saw some tragedies. So yeah, no, when I say these people, I don't mean it that way. These individuals who have fallen on hard times. But yeah, I mean, always I learned very quickly in jail, probably my first shift, to respect. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what they're in for. And I remember one of the first inmates I disrespected because I was young. And he had disrespected me a lot, but that's the job, right? You just put up with it. And then an inmate came out that was in from Drumheller, and he was back to testify in court, and he had been in for like 8 years or something. I don't know. And he says, boss, I'll tell you one thing you're going to have to learn, and that's you better respect the inmates. And if you don't, you're going to pay a big price. And he was right. And I'm glad I learned it quick.
Yeah.
Because I probably would have had a few concussions. So I always respected them. So yeah, these people, I meant no disrespect.
Yeah. On that jail thing, I think when you're saying he disrespected you, then you disrespected him.
Yeah, and I learned very quickly that you just put up with it.
Yeah, or you decide that just because someone else is behaving badly doesn't mean that you have to behave badly.
Yes, same thing. Yeah. I was 18 though.
Well, that's a very, very early time in your life to realize
it sure
to
was.
respect people.
Oh no, I was a good boy.
Yeah.
But my buddy and I didn't know what to do after high school, so we got a job in the jail. But you're a good listener, and I like talking to you. So thanks for coming back to the porch. You're doing a great job as a mayor.
Thank you.
You have a great soul.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you are the mayor of Medicine Hat. And I think we have some great times coming. And I really would like you to, because you are a porch person, like you have
I'm a porch person, yes.
Yeah, and so you can come back anytime.
Thank you.
And this was good.